Hey everyone, Janam this side. Welcome to Round the Clock, an amazing initiative by Reborn India Film that brings the best of indie cinema to your screens all year long. Today, we are diving into Scavenger of Dreams, a very thought-provoking film that recently got screened as a part of our program.
Hey guys, welcome to Round the Clock. And today we have the makers of the Scavenger of Dreams with us. And it's I'm happy to announce that we had two shows of them in Mumbai, and both of them were houseful. So congratulations, guys. How are you today?
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I would also like to add it in Kolkata show also we had, and that was also a great show. So thanks to all of you.
Thanks.
Awesome. So
I think the one
this
to be thanked is the audience. Other
Right.
audience.
yeah.
for
The
coming.
audience are responding really well. I've heard so much about this film, from everybody who's seen it, and the critics are just going bonkers about it. Like this movie, this part, this part, this part. So it was an awesome conversation I had with them, with Reborn India and the critics who were present there. So it's awesome. So,
Have you watched it,
uh,
China?
hmm,
You did watch it?
no, I have not watched it yet. I'm waiting to watch it. I missed the screenings, unfortunately. I'm hoping to catch it during the festival, proper like the festival that comes later on. So I'll be catching that.
No, please do.
Yeah, I 100% will. I saw the trailer and it gave me that proper art house cinema vibes, and the concept itself was pretty solid. Like how they are weaving stories, to tell the child while collecting the garbage from the yard. So it's a very beautiful concept. So how did you guys come up with that concept? What's the base inspiration on that?
So, the inspiration is from an article which I had read in the US in the New York Times about a waste collector who collects waste in Silicon Valley outside the house of billionaires who are, say, Mark Zuckerberg or whatever. And that article, the headline only captured my imagination in the sense that what is trash to someone is treasure to someone else. And it was about a waste collector who collected those articles. And you can imagine that when you're collecting waste from such billionaires, like it's a last edition of an iPad or something like that, which this guy has no use also probably. And he used to then imagine the lives of the extreme rich from the items
Hmm,
that he collected from their houses. So the article
right.
was on that. And that led me to the question that, for example, I split my time between Miami and Kolkata. And I realized that in Kolkata, when I come, whoever collects my waste, I have no idea. That person is invisible to me, and so to many others. And I started asking questions about, that, you know, to people I know, what is who collects waste and things. So that took 3 years then to delve into the idea, to know them. And after that, I thought of making a movie. When I thought of making a movie, then I interacted with them more, and I then got in touch with my crew and cast and everything. So that is how it formed. But that was the original idea from where it came.
So did you ever get in touch with the person, the waste collector who was the base inspiration for your story,
No,
the
no,
Miami guy?
that was based
No?
in California. So
Oh, right.
I didn't get touch, but I contacted the people out here in Kolkata, the waste collectors, and I started chatting with them and knowing more about their lives.
So how difficult did it prove to, I heard the film was also shot in the slums, directly in the slums.
Correct.
So what was that challenge like? Was it very frustrating, or
No, you see,
how was it like?
when I first time went there, where they sit, and in the film also where they sit and chat amongst themselves before they take the garbage to the main dumping ground. And the main dumping ground we show in the film also, it is few kilometers of just mountains of trash. And I couldn't bear this odor of that place. It was so but after a couple of days I got used to it. And then after I knew them, I went to their houses. I think the more difficult part was for the actors, because I had two professional actors in the film, and others were real waste collectors who actually, are doing the grunge work. And to have that same tonality in their performances, that was the challenge of Shardul and Shudipta. So, and of course, my cameraman, Ravi Kiran Ayagari, his job was to surreptitiously, in a sense, to shoot the scenes so that they are not aware that they are being photographed or shot on things. So a lot of things had to, tie seamlessly. So that was the challenge, I think. Yeah.
So this one is for Shardul and Sudipta. So how did you guys navigate through that? Because for actors, doing like the stage acting is one thing. Actually, acting in the slums and in the live location where there can be a lot of difficulties, challenges is another thing. And along with it, you mentioned there are too many non-actors as well in the film. So how was it navigating through that?
Who's taking
Sudipta?
it? Abdul,
You. Yeah, you.
as usual. Okay, so see, for me, it was a little bit easier because I was quite familiar with the space that we shot at. Because there was a time when I used to live there, so that basti, that jhopdi was quite known to me as a space, and people living in there, some of them were quite closely known to me. So I had a kind of a little bit of comfort level there. I mean, in that space with those people. But yes, I had no idea about the integrity and the details of their livelihood, which we came to know later on while preparing for this film. Because when we actually filmed it, and when we had started talking about it, I mean, Shumon started communicating about this film, there were a gap of 2 years almost. Yes, years time. So gradually he took us into that process, and we started getting to know about them in details, their livelihood, their crisis, their USPs, their fun, their dreams, their sorrow, everything we came to know gradually. So it was a lengthy process, but it was quite a you know interesting and engaging process to gradually know them and getting into their lives almost. So it was not very difficult for me. I quite like being thrown such challenges at. Yeah.
Yeah, for me also. I mean, I was going to Calcutta से हिंदी में बोलते हैं होश संभालने के बाद शायद पहली बार मैं कलकत्ता जा रहा था. So I was not just going to a different space, I was going to a different city. But I think just what just stands as a continuous line is that oppression looks the same all across the world. You can look for reasons, but it looks almost the same. The scales change and stuff changes, but it looks the same. The mechan. So what we did was, as a group, and I would include Shudipta, Suman, Ravi, Monica, a production designer, and Suman's namesake, our AD, Ankan, many people, Baptanda. The whole group would first try and go figure out how are people employed. What is the systems? What are the systems? So whether it's the borough office or some other places where we'll all go together to understand how the employment happens, what are the forms of employment that happen there, then how do you start interacting with people who live in the basti, and then most importantly, how do you start working with people who actually do this job in the area that they do this job. So what was important for us, and me and Shudita would go and sometimes collect garbage with them, and that is the only way. I think no other acting theory can beat one thing, which is stay in the field. And if it was up to us and if we had the resources, we would have stayed in the field much longer. But with the limited time and things that we had, we try to spend as much time in the field as possible. And then it depends upon the dignity and um, the the welcoming nature that we found amongst the garbage collectors who sort of accepted us into their space. And we did. I do not remember even a single day of shooting where there was any kind of trouble made from anybody on the sets. And I think that's also because Suman had been in this process for 2 years, and his direction team was doing this for a long time, and we were almost going into a space which was already prepared for us. We only had to spend time there and work with them. But the initial sort of introduction and all of that had already happened.
No, yeah, even I'm like used to talking with the people who come to my building every day to collect garbage. Then they talk to me about all their problems and stuff. So these kind of small problems that other people have, these kind of you guys have interviewed them. So you might have a large base of stories. So were there any such particular revelations made by the everybody who's helping societies stay clean? Uh, through which you might have improvised on the film's overall tone and overall story.
See, Jainam,
So,
I think one thing I would just want to say, I think when you work in this fashion, right, interviewing is a patronizing position to take. You don't interview. You go there and you surrender yourself. Because the point is
Correct.
that if you go there looking for information,
Hmm.
you're mostly not going to get it.
Makes sense.
You have to go there and you have to surrender yourself, because you cannot come with the baggage of, oh, I'm a city born in this class and that class, so I want to do good for people who do not have things in Voice of the Voiceless. If you go in with that perspective, I think it becomes a tad bit difficult, because they can smell it out. They're not the other, they're like us. So
Hmm.
everybody can smell disingenuity.
I had only the main story in my mind where he collects them and tells stories to the daughter, Munni, in the film. And the rest of it was completely, it came out of my interactions with them, the issues that are there in the movie. So, um, and also this film didn't have a script, very oddly short. So it was more, in a sense, a problem for the main actors, or also the challenge or the enriching experience also. So what I did, my job was to do the research. Um, what are the problems that they face, and or to build their lives build the lives of the characters in the film, and the rest. So I just imparted that information to my actors, and rest I told them to improvise on the scene. And once they are, I think, soaked in the characters, what came out organically is what you see in the film. So yeah.
So my question is
Right.
to both the actors.
Hmm.
See, while you were doing the workshop, you went for garbage collection and everything, but we have that mind psychology that where means the way we have born and brought up. By putting
Hmm.
that born and brought up aside and putting your footstep in their field is something different. And again, coming back to your life, but how was that psychologically way for our actors? Because many inspired actors are seeing this movie and they were like, कि भाई ये कैसे किया means you have been such good names in the industries and you are collecting the garbages, you are feeling that smell and everything. जो घर में कचरा रहता है वो इंसान सुन के मतलब they don't feel कि यार क्या है. You did it all by yourself. So how was that?
That's what I was mentioning earlier. That's what Shadu was talking about. That we took a lot of time, and we actually started taking garbages, collecting garbages even before we started filming it, because that is kind of, you can call it a workshop, but we called it, getting used to the filth and the odor and everything. Getting befriended with all of it, so that you don't feel like dissociating yourself while shooting it, right? So, well, before we started actually shooting, me and Shardul used to visit the places, and we actually used to collect the garbages, and our unit members were quite scared of the fact that they would recognize, oh God, Sudipta Chakraborty knocking my door and collecting garbage from my household. So that was fun part, but literally we had to do that to just to get associated with that filth and the odor and the smell, so that by the time we start shooting the actual film, we get quite used to it. And we actually did. I mean, I'm sure Shardul also did feel the same way. It was quite it's 8 to 9 days that 7 to 8 days that we shot for the film, and we never ever felt anything like Rahul. You were mentioning that in our households only we get a little, you know, perturbed with that smell, but it did not affect at all. It did not just matter to us till the time we were shooting, because somehow or the other we just got into that system. And my daughter was angry with Shumon, with myself, that what kind of attire you're making my mother wear, and what is it? Is it a film happening or something else? But we got so used to it. I used to wear the sari early in the morning and leave home just to really, collect garbages from the households in Kolkata before we started shooting. So that was probably the process that Shumon put us in, and we were quite used to that whole life. We actually made up our interior of that house that was shown as our home. Me and Shardul, because the production unit, the production designer team, they had done it, but then later on, me and Shardul went there and said, okay, sab idhar udhar kar do, fir humko karne do ye. So हम दोनों ने किया था. A large part of it we actually made it like, यहाँ पे मुन्नी बैठेगी, यहाँ पे वो पढ़ेगी, यहाँ पे वो सोएगी, यहाँ पे ये होगा, वहां पे ये होगा, so that we feel accustomed with the entire um what should I call it, environment, the ambience. Yeah. So it was quite a process. Now that I look back at it, it was quite a process, but that time I never felt anything about it. I was just going with the flow. Shardul, do you agree?
No, I feel that it's a very simple thing. It's a simple thing, I think, yet it's the most difficult thing to do. I think most of stuff in acting is quite simple to understand or like sort of say, but it's very hard to do because these are fundamental things. Like the fundamental thing is that you need to spend time in the field. When you are lucky or fortunate enough to have a situation where you have real people doing real jobs from whom you can take and you can be there. I mean, me and Shudipta are fortunate that we had this opportunity to do this, because I mean, where else do you get this? Otherwise, you're sitting in your room making a background for a character. Pehle kahan tha, ye kahan tha, wo kahan tha. Here you have people, and the basic thing is that if you learn how to do the job, which actually looks as if it's non-skilled labor, but it is quite skilled labor. You have to segregate a lot of things, and it's not just dry and wet waste. Within that, you have shards of glasses. You have to navigate that. Then there are multiple things. I don't want to get into the nitty gritties of it, but the point is that if you start learning the task properly and surrender yourself, which is the hard part, I think things start to look up then. Yeah.
The time when Sumanda came with the script, like, I am doing this movie and we are going to shoot in real location. We have to go and meet with this. As a actors, what was your thought in the mind? कि यार हम लोग तो सेट पे जाके काम करते हैं या तो रियल लोकेशन पे जाके करना पड़ रहा है. Means first instincts वो क्या था when you heard about the script?
I think I broached the idea to her even before she joined as a cast, just as a friend. I shared the idea, and after that, she joined. And with Shardul, I had a meeting in Bombay because I wanted to know whether the actor is invested in the issue, because otherwise, you cannot do an honest job in this film particularly. So after I think we met for an hour or so, and I could understand from where he comes from, what is his general outlook of life, and so that is what I wanted to know. And of course, I had seen his movie Ibaleu before, but it is not just the acting which I need now. It is a commitment which is beyond your actor self. So those were the things which I wanted to check. With Chulipta I knew, but with Chardul, I'm working the first time. So after that, I know that their honesty will flow in the performance. So yeah. And sorry, I answered your question.
No, fine. Fine. No, I mean, as Suman was saying about Ibaleo, if you know about that film is also shot in real locations with real people, with non-actors, with a lot of monkeys and whatnot. I think, as Suman was saying, beyond all the acting things and the film things, I think there has to be a certain worldview that you're coming into. Worldview of, I don't know how to say this without sounding cheesy. But a worldview of empathy. That's it.
Now that you have lived both the worlds, you have lived and I would say two worlds because there is still a point of view that, people share. So there was this recent film which was also a part of Round the Clock. It's called Picha Shah Rone, which explored this point of view of how people who are working and people who are like very rich see each other. So you have had conversations as your own society and as people who are working there. So from the point of view of people who work there, how do they see the people who are deemed upper class or other than who don't work in the same zone? How do they perceive those people?
I think, Suman, do you want to answer?
No, go ahead.
So Sanjay, who was sort of teaching me, Shudipta, everybody, the chops, when we found him, he was a bit of a poet. He'd studied only till class 4th or 5th, but he was a bit of a poet, an angry poet. So sometimes while standing at the dhapa, the dumping yard, he would look at the houses which were visible and he would say in Bengali, and just as a matter of fact, not out of any spite, not out of anger, is it just matter of fact that, look, they would make us carry their sacks of sugar on our backs, but won't let us taste it. Then someday we are working and there was this, in the locality that we were working in, there was this auntie, and even with the costume and everything, whatever, at that point in time, I didn't have any bit of makeup. So I was in the costume and there was an auntie there, and she came out and said in Bengali to another auntie across the wall that, look, where have we come from? Where have we come to? Boys looking like this, tall, fair, have to collect garbage now. So that should give you an idea how one looks at the other. Yeah.
Sumanji, you happen to be an economist as well. So while you were making this film, uh, did your knowledge on economics help navigate any certain aspect of the film, like story-wise?
No, it is not knowledge of economics, I would say, but and you don't need to be an economist also. I would say that the film is the larger, of course, it is the film of the space collectors and all, but it is a comment on globalization, automation, and all of these things, which I teach development economics in my profession. So I think somewhere that also plays where my ideas and viewpoints on these economic issues come into the story when I'm constructing the story. And also, as I said, you need not be an economist to do that. But at the back of the mind, subconsciously, probably that was there. So, yeah, it is a comment on globalization and automation. And so it goes beyond just waste collecting. And I read some of the reviews where they mention this fact that, these days, even in the corporate sector, people working from home or certain changes happening where you do not can cope up with the new technology and all, and their work gets obsolete. There's so much discussion about AI these days. What will happen to workforce when a lot of the jobs are done by AI? So similarly, it applies to our film, or the issues that are so topical and relevant all over the world now.
Sudipta ji. So, you have like camouflaged really, really well into the film's landscape. How was that transformation like? Because like from the makeup to setting in the stage, how was it like every day on the sets?
See, as an actor, I always try to look for the soul of that character much before I look for the look of that character. So I think I got the soul first, and then the looks had happened 2, 3 times before Shumon finalized me for the role. Yeah, and the rest of it just happened. I mean, as an actor, it happens to me. If you ask me the process, I can't really tell you that what is the actual process, but it just happens to me in all my films. So likewise, it happened here.
No, I've seen your like filmography. It's a long list, and now that you have done the Scavenger of Dreams, how do you think this film separates from the rest?
This is a very, very different film for me. First of all, it's my first Hindi screened film. There are others who have not been screened yet. And secondly, this is for the first time. I had not for the first time, actually for the second time. The first was also Shumon's, the other film, Searching for Happiness, where we only had the outline of the story, what he wants to tell people. But then we did not have, scene to scene dialogues written. It was all improvised. So in this film also, it was all improvised. We sat for quite a few times. We discussed. We first met the people, the real life people. We got their stories. Then we took the stories out of them. We put it on the table in front of Shumon that this lady has a story, this lady has a story, this guy has a story. Then we picked up which are the stories that go well with the story that Shumon wants to tell his audience. And then during the shoot, me and Shardul were the only people who knew mota moti what is going to happen in the scene. Rest of the people had no idea. So our job was to, the Shumon's instruction was to, Sudipta, वो वाला story निकालना है यहाँ पे, उसका वो वाला story यहाँ पे निकालना है. So like that, we had only that one liner in mind, and then we started talking and talking. So I think the short footage is much more than what we actually saw in the film. It was heavily edited, brutally edited and cut and thrown off.
That was brutally edited. तो original footage क्या था दादा?
अरे बाप रे, बहुत ज्यादा
और
था,
और
बहुत
बहुत
ज्यादा था.
था।
क्योंकि वो रानी दीदी जो कहानी बताती है, उसमें आने के लिए उनको और 15 मिनट लगा. So वो 15 मिनट the director has cut off, chopped off from the
Because
film.
it is
And
not like, you start the scene and then they enact the lines or whatever. You have to let them flow, them also, like the non-actors also, because, unless you just start talking to them, converse with them, their comfortable zone also comes, and then the professional actors will try to bring out that aspect from the conversation. So you can see we will shoot till they come to that point, and you never know when they will reach that point, so you have to shoot
Yes.
continuously.
We
So
pretended as if a normal discussion is happening, and it is just eventually it is being shot. So in the normal discussions kept happening, and then the point came where that part of the story she or he was telling, and we knew in our mind that okay, Shumon is going to keep this part only. We were not sure, but we had an idea, rough idea about it, but rest of it was the directors and the editors call, I believe. We just shot and shot and shot. We chatted, गप्पे बहुत मारे, time बहुत बिताए, बहुत कुछ किए. A large part of it is not there in the film at all.
so what about the retakes?
He can make
Means
another film out of the. He can. Sorry to cut you off, Rahul. Shuman can actually make another film out of the footage that
part
he
two.
had not used in Scavenger of Dreams Part One.
No, there
Extended cut,
cannot
we
be
are always up
retakes.
for it.
To answer your question, Rahul, there cannot be retakes in this film. So that was the tricky thing, because they are non-actors, right? So you cannot ask them to "Aap jo bola, fir se aap boliye." So it makes the job of the DOP also so much more important, because he has to capture it. And remember, he has to capture it like a fly in the wall. He cannot go close up to those guys, because then they will understand that he's being shot. So he or she is being shot. So we don't want that to happen. Also, we know that there's no possibility of a retake unless the scenes of Shardul and Shudipta. So that was the fun of making this film also.
Yeah, it was majorly like Animal Planet.
Oh,
Yeah.
शेर जिस तरफ जा रहा है उसी को shoot कर रहे kind of stuff we did.
Yeah.
so
So
Suman,
is your
go ahead.
बताइए,
Go ahead.
sorry,
Govind.
बताइए. I
So
was only asking, is your filmmaking process usually like that, or
No, no, no.
was this one of a kind where you are like
No,
going with
so
improvisation?
I have I make two kinds of films, so called. So one genre is, pretty mainstream and whatever. Other is more experimental, where I have some experiments on acting in mind, or camera or narrative style in mind, which I cannot risk in my bigger films. So this was in that genre, Scavenger of Dreams, where to answer your question, no, all films are not like this.
So, Suman, my question is to you. Like, what defines the term that independent film and commercial film? Is the filmmaker who decide that? Is the audience? Is the producer? Or it's making? It defines the term that no, this one is for indie film. This is for the commercial film. This is the big end cinema. Because films are films. We divide them to independent film and commercial and this categories.
So I think the main definition I would say, as I look it, is how you raise the finances. So in an independent film, you are maybe paying for your own money or taking money from others or whatever. And in more mainstream films, if you have a studio and you have a set pattern of distribution. So, for example, when we were making Scavenger of Dreams, we had no clue or never thought that we can see the film on a larger screen, because these types of films are maximum they come in OTT directly. But you saw the reaction of the audiences when the last scene happened. That impact cannot happen except the big screen. So in that sense, we are really, really indebted to Reborn for making this happen. And I wish for other films also, not only my films. As I was talking to Rahul yesterday, I will make a push for other such independent films also, so that they can be screened on the big screen. So that is one. And also in independent films, I don't know what other definition I would say. For example, in the US and all, independent films would be no, I cannot say that it is caste issue also, because a lot of big guys also work in
Yeah.
independent films. So, but another thing which people do not, it is politically incorrect, probably that's why people do not say, when they say that a film is either good or bad, all films, I don't believe in that thing. I think a lot depends on which type of audience you're catering to. So for example, our film Scavenger of Dreams will never cater to you need an engagement level from the audience, and that comes with a lot of literacy and education and things like that. That's why I'm saying that it might sound politically incorrect, but that is very true. When I make a film like Kabuliwala, I know that in the suburbs or in the, they will just enjoy the raw emotion and power of the thing. But in independent films, you need certain type of engagement from the audience. So in that sense, you are catering to a niche audience that makes your market also much smaller. And that is also another from the demand side, as to you, if I call an economics term. So on from the demand side, this is a difference which I think, I don't know, Shardul and Shrita might have different definitions.
So, as an actor, what's your point of view for this?
I've mostly worked in this so-called independent cinema. I think 6 or 7
No,
feature films
Kutte
now.
would not be an independent film.
No, but mostly independent
Mostly,
cinema, I
okay.
said. So, for example, of course, there's a big budget like Kutte that I did, or
Correct.
Trial by Fire, which is a Netflix show. I think it has to do with financing. Yeah, of course. Basically, जब मुझे लगता है जब आपके पास, but also I feel that we have to start restructuring, and especially the Hindi film industry. Here we are talking a lot about restructuring our commercial films also, because the money is not there in the market. B, the small amount of money that is there, people cannot be asking for paychecks which is half the cost of the film. So that restructuring is happening everywhere, and interestingly, that restructuring is sort of, the inspiration for that is being looked at in the models of independent cinema, the way that is not distributed but shot. So, for example, Payal's film All We Imagine Is Light, which is a so-called independent film, but it has not just sold the American territory and has a distributor, who Rana Daggupati, who would be distributing it in India on 200 screens, which a lot of commercial films also don't get. So they are looking at how do you make films in an amount of money so that you are able to distribute it better. So I think commercial cinema also somewhere is going through a churning to look towards independent films models.
But commercial films sort of have a very mostly a sorted way of distribution. When it comes to independent cinema, there is a lot of back and forth between mediums and distributors and film festivals, and so how does exactly one survive in such a industry while making independent film?
One for the
So
kitchen,
you're
one for
asking
me.
me,
Yeah,
to whom?
everyone.
I am not very positive about this scenario, so I'm not the right person to answer this. I think Shardul is more optimistic, because we have this conversation of
Yeah.
such independent films and how to recover money and all, which I'm trying to crack the code. Hopefully, but I think the scenario is getting even worse, because when I made these sort of independent films before, it was picked up by Netflix or Amazon Prime. But these days they won't touch such films also, particularly after the pandemic. So I am not very sure what is the way out. I have survived in my previous ventures, the smaller films, I'm saying independent films. I am sure something will happen with Scavenger of Dreams also, but I'm not very optimistic. Not only my films, I'm seeing many other films who have been to very big film festivals and done well. So but at least I can now show it to people on a big screen, which ideally we wanted to. And then I think, see, my experience, because I've been in the industry almost 20 years, something happens. A film has a future of its own, which you cannot, particularly for an independent film, you cannot predict beforehand when you start making the film. You should just jump into it. And my experience is something just happens. So my uh, this film, this theatrical showings which we are having. We never planned it; it happened. So let's see what is the next step, because the OTT scenario is so bad for us, for independent films, that I know of many very good films which have not found any outlet. So that's why I was having a discussion with Rahul also yesterday, how to think about this thing. But if I may say something which is quite tangential to what you asked also, uh, the fact that they are doing the screenings on Tuesdays. I was talking to Rahul yesterday, and I found that very interesting. Why? Because Cinepolis or any of these PVRs and all, they are having these big tentpole films, and they make their business mainly in the weekends, from Friday to Sunday. And we know in my bigger films also, I know from Monday there's a drop, and Tuesday is the worst period of sales terms, Tuesday or Wednesday, and then again it starts picking. So I really love their idea that they plan to utilize that Tuesday and Wednesday to for space for art house films like us, because then it's a win-win for Cinepolis also, because otherwise a big Bengali film would have 10% capacity in on a Tuesday, 10 or 20%. Our film is having almost houseful. We had one houseful, so it is say 80% capacity. So you can see for Cinepolis also, and I do not believe in that dictum. Everybody says na ki un log to khali paisa dikhta hai, they don't care for films like us, they are only for big films. Why not? They are there not to help us. So we should think of a business model where it is win-win for both Reborn, for us, the filmmaker, and Cinepolis. And what they are doing, I found it very interesting. And I talked to Rahul about our future plans also, and I'll continue the discussion, where I found this fascinating, because typically we release a film, such an independent film, nobody sees it, at least 7 days, if it is there, 2 or 3 days, and we are happy about the fact that it is releasing, correct? But I find no sense in that, because during the weekends, why will people come and watch your film? Because it is so now people know on Tuesday one screening, so we can gather all the audience on Tuesday to come to that. So maybe, for example, I'm hoping for Scavengers. So if suppose we have the next show also houseful, then I will ask Reborn that why don't we get the next Tuesday also? So ye chalta rahe, but if for 2-3 months it can continue for one show, rather than 7 days, a week, and then it's gone, everybody forgets. And then the people will say, oh, release kiya tha, kab chala gaya, which is normally what we face. Now we have an option of doing it every Tuesday till the demand subsides. So as an economist, I was very intrigued by the idea, and I really want to explore more with Reborn to utilize this. And when I'm going to Miami tomorrow, I am taking a lot of younger directors send me Vimeo links of films so that I can help out in some way. I have helped out before also. In fact, Aditya Vikram's film. But helping out, I don't want to just put in money and help out. But this is real helping. If I can push, because I have had credibility, I can ask Hardul to push some other film where he is not active. I can ask Sudipta to request. Of course, I'll show the film if they like it, to push it. I can ask my bigger legend for Aparna Sen, Sharmila Tagore and all. So that is how I really want to take this ahead. Sorry, a long-winded answer, but since you asked about the independent, I'm seeing a certain hope there. So that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
And I would
I'm
like
so
to
glad,
add to
Suman.
this as well. I would like to
Yeah.
add to this as well. There are films, that I have had conversations with the makers that they don't release their films like to a wider audience, despite knowing that they have a market, but they don't release because when there is a distributor's conversation, the first thing is I say, "ये film कोई नहीं देखने वाला." Right now, the re-releases are working a lot. ये साल तो इतना चला है re-releases, but when those films came out, तो उनका क्या था कि they would be like dying for the like they would only do a small महाराष्ट्र में रिलीज कर दिया सिर्फ उतना उतना लिमिटेड रखा they would not go out because they know कि अगर उतना किया they would not be able to bear the cost क्योंकि film won't work for that level of an audience. So this is kind of working, and I have worked with cinemas as well. So I
No,
used to like
let
get
me
it.
ask you, Jainam,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
re-release has worked for Tumbad,
Hmm.
but I don't think, for example, Bengal, they re-released one of the biggest hits of Bengali cinema, Chader Pahar, which has Dev and all,
Hmm.
which it didn't work, and not only two, three people also went for that. It was a big failure. So one cannot generalize based on one single anecdote. What I'm saying. So you see what I'm saying? That
Hmm.
Tumbad it worked, I know, because Tumbad
Yeah.
when it released, nobody saw it, but everybody knew that it is a masterpiece, and to see it on the big screen, it would be a delight. So somehow it worked for Tumbad. But now the analysts should sit down and work that what worked for Tumbad, what didn't work for other release. बहुत सारा release किया. If you see the
Hmm.
figures, I was seeing the figures,
Hmm.
I don't think it worked for the others. So what is it
Yeah.
about Tumbad it worked? So that is how one should think, rather than say कि अभी re-release what? Sorry, I'm probably sermonizing on you, but remember I'm a professor, so you have to bear with that. But just
Yes, yes,
because
no.
Tumbad worked, you cannot say that re-release work kar raha hai, chalo abhi. So for example, my producer of my one of my big films, Kadamburi, we did very
Hmm.
well when it released. Now he also wants to re-release. I said that why are you want to think first before re-releasing? I talked to the producer. I have a meeting
Hmm.
tomorrow also. That why do you first of all want to re-release? So many films didn't work. So do you want Kadamburi to do business like that, or how can you transform that to Tumba? What did you plan? So, or thoda sa soch ke to take the steps is important. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, even Tumbad came out. Tumbad was like, it was a very big leap. Uske pehle, there was this one film, I guess, Gangs of Wasipur by Anurag Kashyap. And uske pehle, it was Rockstar. So now Rockstar picked up, and that's when Tumbad also came up. But then Gangs
Mm,
of Wasipur, even though it's a cult classic, it did not create that much
correct.
bigger conversation as a re-release that others
I
did.
in fact didn't
And
know
then,
that Gangs of Wasipur re-released, so
yeah,
I went
exactly.
through. Yeah.
Gangs of Wasipur came out, I guess, both the parts at the same time, and it was a very limited release along with the others. And I worked with cinemas, when it comes to marketing and distribution. So I used to remember these kind of conversations. कि we say कि हम लोग को Friday, Saturday, Sunday का main prime time होता है. But even when they are conversating, it's like a Friday, Saturday max. Saturday के बाद तो Sunday भी नहीं चलने देता है. तो ये conversation तो it was very much even the commercial films are struggling. So this model is actually good. They try to pick it up. जो चल रहा है then, but जो चल रहा है ना the commercial, you don't mess with the commercial. उसके लिए जो Tuesdays and all होते हैं when
Correct.
people are
Absolutely.
eager to then just join in, and
Yeah.
that's a very
Yeah.
good thing Reborn did,
Yeah.
like you mentioned.
Yeah. Definitely.
So Shardul ji, Sudipta ji, what's your perspective on this?
See, as a child, I used to see a different Kolkata where there were Cine Central Calcutta, and then there were, a movement for watching niche films
Hmm.
and art house cinemas, and then it gradually went down. So
Hmm.
that time it was majorly NFDC backed films, majorly state sponsored, and those films used to run in the theater, the state government theaters. So people had a gross idea about, acha Nandan mein ye film chalegi. But these days, Nandan, which is the state government's main theater in Kolkata, they run the absolute commercial blockbusters there. So the confidence of these kind of filmmakers that whatever we make, at least it will run in Nandan or theaters like it, they don't have that confidence these days because the entire scenario has changed upside down. So I think the idea that Shumon was talking about, that every Tuesday kind of a screening, if that can really be worked out, it sounds like quite a plan to me, because these films need to be made. I mean, on at the end of our screening also last Tuesday, it was largely talked on that why don't these films being made these days, and Shumon has
He lost you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's an network issue.
ventilator and
You
so on,
know,
and
yeah.
cross promotion, the promo these days the kind of promotions that this blockbusters film do, it enters your almost your bedroom to knock knock knock, meri film aa rahi hai. Now a
Mm,
film like a Scavenger of Dreams, who has that money to promote it like that?
mm,
I mean, फिल्म बनाने के लिए हम तड़प रहे थे तो बना लिया, अब उसको प्रमोट कैसे कर रहे हैं हम? We don't have that capacity, that large capacity. So yeah, this once a week thing really
yeah.
sounds like a plan to me. Yeah,
Mm,
really
And
sounds
once a
like a
week, and once a week, when there is everyone in the audience, so you can get the audience word out. Okay, everybody is
correct.
loving it. People can put out
Absolutely.
snippets.
Absolutely.
Word
Of
of mouth
course, so
is,
that
I
the
feel,
coming days, younger filmmakers would really be interested in making films, who are gradually losing hope and interest in making such films, even if they want to. So maybe this can be a gateway for them.
Mm,
Who knows?
mm.
And so far as
you
Scavenger
like.
of Dreams, I have high hopes about this film, and I really hope this releases in theater. Shumon abhi mujhe
Mm.
marega, but I really hope that this releases in theaters, and I strongly believe that people would come to watch this film on big screen. I somehow
Right.
have this idea.
Right. I mean, there are a lot of film communities now, who get like you help push the narrative as well. So community by community, if people come together, then it can form a large audience. And this dream of
Yes,
having
yes, of
the wide
course.
release can actually work.
Yes, the whisper campaign takes time. So if we
Mhm.
have 6 days in hand, कि ये
Correct.
Tuesday में हुआ, and whoever had watched it, go back home, discuss it with their friends and colleagues and foes, and say next Tuesday जाके ये film देख लो. So the whisper campaign also, can get that time to let people know, and the like-minded people would come and watch it, I'm sure.
Right. I would like to end this conversation with one very casual question. It's, I've always wanted to be a director. So for me, it's like a very big question. Every director has this one film that inspires them to become a director. So, Shomanda, what was that film for you?
I get this question very often, but I don't think I can single out one film what made to be. But I can say that see, we typically every Bengali you ask, they will say Satyajit Ray's this film and that film, which are like you are inculcated almost by your parents from a younger age. But if I have to point out, uh, one film which had a huge impact was Roja. When Mani Ratnam's Roja released, I was in college, and the power. And remember, it was a Tamil film. Those days, it was not very common that you watch Tamil films other than in television. They used to play during the afternoon or whatever. But
Hmm.
Roja released all India, and it was a Tamil film. And the impact, I saw it in London. Shrita was talking about London. It had a huge impact on me. The storyline, the the acting, the way it was shot. Of course, it was the birth of A.R. Rahman, so it was pure cinema to me. And I, I was fortunate to meet Mani Ratnam and A.R. Rahman in film festivals abroad, and I told them that a young boy from Bengal who was so impacted by a Tamil film when it was released. And so that was the inspiration. And of course, we have our there's Reborn Ghosh's films, because I was telling someone that when growing up in Bengal, people like Satyajit Ray, Aparna Sen, Gautam Ghosh, they are almost like a separate generation altogether. But Rituparna Ghosh was a director who was not much older than me, like 10 years older, I think he was. But comes from South Point. So it was as if he was our cohort, and he was making such fantastic films. So that gave us courage also that, yeah, you know, and the aesthetics of those films were so captivating. So I would say that, Mani Ratnam and Rituparna Ghosh, two disparate filmmakers, were very influential on me making, wanting to be filmmaker. Yeah.
Awesome, awesome. So thank you so much, guys, for this session. I cannot wait to watch the film, and good luck with the every next screening that comes up. I'll watch it soon, and I'll ping you guys up that this was awesome. So
Thank
till
you.
next
Please
time,
do.
thank you so much. All right.
So
Thank
I
you
would
so much.
also
Thank
like to
you.
thank you all
Thank
of you
you.
for that lovely film what you have given to Reborn. So thank
Thank
you
you.
very much.
Yeah,
Thank
I'm
you.
waiting for the
Bye.
ending, the what the end is all about because
Right.
you just mentioned there was an audience
Yeah.
reaction. I
Yeah.
want to
Yeah.
see that.
Yeah, I
Everyone
want
talked
to hear
about that shot.
Suman Sudhita, what was the reaction in Calcutta?
Fantastic.
Because I was not
That
there in
Mind
Calcutta.
blowing.
I
What
People
was
was the
started
reaction?
amazing.
crying, which I was not expecting. I was not
Yeah.
expecting people to cry watching this film because Sumon's
Oh,
one-liner was to both of us were, don't create sympathy. I don't want people to sympathize on them, create empathy maximum. But
oh,
people started crying and they got emotional. Oh my God,
And
including my mother.
there's a very famous filmmaker called Suman Mukhopadhyay. You've probably heard, Shardul. Uh,
Yes, yes.
so
Yeah.
today on Facebook, he wrote that the film reminded of Wim Wenders' what
Perfect
was
days.
his Perfect Days.
Perfect days.
Perfect.
So I said that mera perfect ho gaya. So but it was very interesting. I was telling Shudipta after watching Perfect Days, I told her that this is what real acting is. Have you seen Perfect Days, Shardul?
Yeah,
I
Yeah,
haven't.
I've seen it.
I was
Yeah,
so enamored with. Of course, he's a very famous actor and from Japan. But I said that this is what real acting is, and kudos to both of you. I feel that, and completely your credit, what you did in the film is very much of that Gharanak acting of Perfect Days. So when Shuman Mukhopadhyay had said that, it reminded me of Perfect Days. Of course, the way it was shot also and everything, but the acting was Gharanaka. So yeah,
in Bombay also people came out and so I made it a point to stand right outside and people,
right.
I think 50 or 60% of the audience didn't want to talk. I said, how
Mm,
did you find the
Yes.
film? And people
Yes,
would
same
say,
mm,
here.
I mean, just give
correct.
me a little while, I'll call you.
Mm, mm,
Same
So
here in
we
Kolkata.
got
Same
a
thing
point
happened.
of view on also social media. Ki bring to our state, bring to Delhi, bring to Bangalore, bring to that. Only I had a word with
right,
Suman also. Ki we
right,
will be
right.
If
exploring
you
more with
check
them.
my social media updates, Rahul, everywhere people are writing, when is it coming to Bangalore? When is it coming to Delhi
Mm,
Yes,
NCR?
mm,
When?
So we are
yeah,
planning
Yeah.
more
I've
yeah.
also
been
that how we can
yeah, I
expand to
was
that.
mm.
introduced to Scavengers at the awards night. You introduced the film. So that
Shardul was
yeah,
there.
Shardul, yeah. So I was there in
Yeah.
the audience that day, and it like
Oh,
I felt some sense of an aura. Like, okay, this dude knows what he's saying. This dude knows what he's doing. So I need to watch this film. And since then, I've been, like we are behind Reborn. Like, let's watch it. But then I unfortunately missed the screening. But I'll connect with you guys soon again because there I will have
Sure,
100 more questions after that.
sure.
So
Thank you.
see you guys soon.